Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Irfan Nafisha binti Nur Razlan. Number matric is 23F1098. So, I want to explain part 5 handling function. This Python code defines 3 functions that handle reading from and writing to a text file named guess.txt. These are commonly used in simple GUI applications to manage data like guest name and room numbers. First, write file this for purpose overwrites the entire guess.txt file with a new guess entry. How it works: gets the guest name and room number from GUI input fields, entry name and entry room, opens or creates the file guess.txt in write mode W, which deletes any existing content, and write the input data in the format, and name room number followed by a new line. If successful, show a success message. If something goes wrong, shows an error. Next, read file. Purpose: reads and display the contents of guess.txt. How it works: open the file in read mode R, reads the entire contents into a variable text, clears any existing content in a text display, reject text display, and inserts the read content if the file can be read. For example, missing or inaccessible, shows an error message. After that, append file. Purpose: adds a new guess entry without deleting existing ones. How it works: gets the input from entry name and entry room, opens the file in append mode A, which adds data to the end without deleting anything. Write the new guess entry in the same name, room number format. Show a success message or an error if something fails. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Elina Batrisha. My message number 01DDT23F1121. So now I will explain about database operation. So this database for managing the SQLite database for create, insert, delete, update and search. So create is the database and table. Insert guess data for add a new guess. Delete guess entries. Update existing guess info. Search for guess record. And this function represent operation you do implement using SQL command in Python using SQLite 3 module. SQLite use a .db file to store a data. When setup db is run, it's connect to hotel.db, and if it doesn't exist, it create it. So a table like guess is then create using SQL. So next, guess info is stored with ID, name and room. So each guess has ID, unique identifier, name, guess name, and room is room number or name. So these fields are used across all database function: add, delete, update. And for next, add guess use insert into to add a new record. Delete guess use delete from with a where condition. And update guess use update. Set where. Search guess use select from guess where. For its function, connects to hotel.db, execute the SQL statement, commit change, and close the connection. Next, input validation is also important because it prevent error like inserting empty name or room, and it help avoid invalid SQL execution such as blank string, and it will ensure data integrity and improve user experience. For example, before adding a guess, check if not name or not room, show error, and all fields are required. And that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Edina, for the previous explanation. Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Husna binti Razali, and my matrix number is F1119. So I will continue to explain the mini project. My part is the list, interaction, and calculations. So as you can see in the coding, The function responsible for retrieving guest data is called show_all in brackets. This function interacts with SQLite database named hotel.db and fetches all guest records stored in the guest table. So, step-by-step explanation. So the first one is the function begins by connecting to the SQLite database using SQLite tree.connect in brackets hotel.db. This allows the system to access stored guest records. Next one is to execute a SQL query. The cursor C executes the SQL command, which is the select from guest, which retrieve all guest records or entries from the guest table. Next, to fetch the data, we use a c.fetchChild in brackets, collects all rows from the execute query and stores them in the rows variable, preparing the data for display. Next, to update the list box, we check. Before inserting new data, we clear the list box using listbox.delete in brackets 0n, ensure no outdated entries remain. For example, 101.johndoe in brackets room 205. Next, to close the database connection, the connection is closed using con.close in brackets. Next, I will explain about the guest data autofill coding. So the function that is responsible for this feature is called fill_fields in brackets event. So let me explain step by step. So first one, we have to handle the list box selections. So first, the function detects when a user selects an item from the list box, it retrieves the selected item using listbox.curseSelection in brackets, then extracts the guest ID from the string using split in brackets /./ ensure to correct data retrieval. The second one is to connect to the database. A connection is established with a SQLite database using hotel.db using SQLite tree.connect in brackets. This allows us to execute queries to fetch guest data. Next, to retrieve guest information, a SQL query is executed using c.execute in brackets /select name room from guest where ID equals to question mark, and also in brackets guest underscore, which retrieve the guest name and room number based on their ID. Next, we need to update the GUI fields. If a record is found, the function clears the existing text in the entry fields, which is the entry underscore name and entry underscore room, and inserts the retrieved name and room number to ensure real-time updates for the user. Last but not least, to close the database connection, the connection is closed using con.close in brackets to maintain system efficiency and security. Next, I will explain about the guest count coding. So, the function that is responsible for retrieving the guest count is called calculate_total in brackets. It connects to a SQLite database and executes a query to count the total number of guests in the guest table. So let me explain step by step. So first, you need to connect to the database. The function begins by establishing a connection with the SQLite database, which is the hotel.db, using SQLite tree.connect in brackets /hotel.db. These steps allows the program to interact with the stored guest records. Next, to execute the SQL query, the function creates a cursor object, which is c equals to con cursor in brackets, to execute SQL commands. The command is select count in brackets from guests to retrieve the total number of guests registered in the system. Next step is to fetch the result. After executing the query, the function uses a fetch1 in brackets 0 to extract the count value from the database response. This value represents the total number of guests. Next, to close a database connection, to ensure system efficiency and security, The connection is closed using con.close in brackets once the data retrieval is complete. Last but not least, to update the GUI label, finally the function updates a label which is label underscore total config text equals to f/total guest to dynamically display the guest count on the user interface. This ensures that staff can always see the latest occupancy status. So that's all from me.
Hello, my name is Nur Alia Safia binti Shamsul Kamal. My matrix number is F1059 and I'm the last presenter in the mini project presentation of our group, and I'm going to explain for the GUI window setup. So for the GUI window setup, root equal to tk.tk open and close bracket creates the main window using tkinter. Root.title hotel guest list management sets the window title, and for the size of the window, in the coding it shows that root.geometry with multiply height. And for the input field section, guest name input tk.label displays a text label saying guest name. Entry underscore name equal tk.entry creates a text entry field for typing a guest name. And second, room number input similar to guest name, label plus entry field for entering room numbers. These fields are where the user input guest details. And for the file handling section is, you can see from the coding, button underscore frame equal tk.frame open bracket root and close the bracket groups the file buttons in one row. Buttons created is to write file, saves current input to a text file. Second, read file to read and displays content from the file. And the third one is append file, adds new data to the file without erasing old data. And for the third point is, I'm going to explain for the database control. So for the database control, there has three buttons, which is add is for inserting a new guest record into the database. Second, update to modify selected guest details. And the third one is to delete for removing the selected guest from the database. These buttons interact with the SQLite database or similar backend. And for the guest list display, you can see from the coding the line which is listbox equal tk.listbox to display all guest names in a scrollable list. Guests are dynamically loaded here from the database. And the third point is the line listbox.bind allows clicking an item to autofill the input field. And for the last one is the startup initialization. So firstly, the setup underscore db to prepare the database creates table if not exists. And second, show underscore all loads all guest data into the list box at startup. And the last one is root.main loop to keep the application running and responsive. And that's all from me. And for the last one is, I'm going to show you our mini project output and how the database is tracking all the records for the hotel list management. And that's all from us. Thank you.